Wondering how to fall completely in love with the people and things that surround you at home? I've spent the last 15 years studying how and where families thrive and what relational and house characteristics ignite us with that homey feeling. On this podcast, we uncover how our brains process the people we live with and the houses we live in so we can confidently create our homes to be wonder-filled connection magnets. Ready to give up the decision fatigue, comparison hives, overwhelm ulcers, and confusion chaos? You are in the right place. I'm your host, Carly Thornock. Welcome to Becoming Home. What's up, homies? It's Carly. So glad that you are here. This is the Becoming Home podcast, where we help you to feel like home is within you and to really create a world for yourself that feels like home, not because you have influenced the world around you to be different, but because you have found that you are home, that you have become the home that you are seeking. Today, I want to talk to you about how balance is movement. Balance, this idea of balance. Okay, let's sit with this for a second. Balance is this idea that we have lots of pulling forces in different directions and we are straddling them perfectly, that we are immovable, that we have all the things supported in all the ways that we want them to be supported. Balance takes a million micro adjustments, right? Have you ever balanced on anything, like on a log or on a seesaw or even on the floor, depending on the time of day, right? I feel like when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, whoa, okay, refinding my balance. But to feel balanced is rarely to feel still. It's more like we feel strong or we feel flexible or we feel aware, we feel on our game. Like all of our senses are taking in information and our bodies are making adjustments. This is true balance. Even when I've been dancing, or even the most proficient ballerinas and like professional dancers that I've met, their balance is not stillness. Their balance is strength. There's a huge difference. So when we talk about balance in home life, a lot of times there's things outside of home life that we are trying to incorporate into our lives while also sustaining some level, I would call it a should perhaps, or some desire of continuity in our home life, and we want things to be balanced. And we seek really hard to achieve this balance. We worry that if we pursue our passions or that if things outside of the home get too chaotic, that it will throw off the life balance, right? Sometimes the women that I encounter talk about their passions having to play small. They're worried that if they are for real with the things that they are good at, their strengths, their talents, and they care about playing big, then they'll be off kilter and they'll be crazy and they'll lose themselves and be awful moms and get tattoos. And then who knows what will happen once we're down this cascade of craziness, right? And when we think about balance, we just want to find like the right number. Does that mean like my kids are in 3 extracurricular activities? Does that mean that I can go to choir on Thursdays? Like, is that in balance? And we're seeking for the answer. We're seeking for a right landing place. We want it to be still. We want it to be done. But what I want to offer to you today is that what if balance was this idea of movement where it's a million micro adjustments, where one day when your kid is sick, balance, actually staying on balance, looks like devoting yourself to a sick child. And some days when your heart needs to create, balance is allowing that passion to shine and to go paint for a day on the mountain, a week, whatever it is. Like, balance is not a number, balance is not a formula, balance is not a should. It's just about taking in information, just like balance in real life, right? Taking in information and adjusting accordingly so you stay on center. What if, you guys, in our quest to maintain center, what if it looked a lot like extreme and a lot like falling over and a lot like plates being dropped and a lot like not twirling on point? Like, what if the path to balance was strife with crashes. Have you ever tried to really increase your balance? Has this ever been something that you've worked on? I've spoken here before about learning how to do a handstand. I'm learning how to handstand. And let me tell you, learning my balance in a new way, upside down on my hands, looks a lot like falling on my head repeatedly and floundering all over the land and knocking things over with my feet and telling my kids, don't get close to me because you're going to get kicked in the face. Like me learning how to balance is 0% balancing, right? It's not micro adjustments yet. I'm not to the point where we are micro adjusting. It is very macro. It is very messy. It is very ugly. It's very nothing that is anything resembling a handstand right now, right? What if finding your balance at home, in your life, in your relationships, within your own soul, what if this was requiring brazen risk taking? What if the path to balance was 75 smashed lamps? What if being your best balanced self required knowing yourself in a very extreme way? We would like to think that the path to a handstand is doing some push-ups to get the muscles in the right places and then practicing handstands a lot. And at first it's just a very graceful, like up and down. And then after time, you just stay up longer and that's it. But no, this is not how it works to train yourself to do a handstand. It is about like figuring out where your hands go and how to lock your elbows and about what happens if you lean this way and what happens if you land this way and what happens if you kick too hard and what happens if you kick up with your left foot instead of your right foot and what if you want to try to tuck up. Like if you're like me, you just realize you do not even have the muscle awareness to consider tucking up into a handstand. Like mind blowing. So to do a handstand to me, I have to know myself in ways that I currently do not. I have to become a different kind of person. And it feels very extreme. And by extreme, all I mean is it's out of my comfort zone. It feels risky and uncomfortable and completely awful. What if by having this self-awareness, we're actually embodying the very definition of unbalance? Precisely because we have no idea where our weight can be thrown. So if we don't have the self-awareness, we are intrinsically unbalanced because there's no way that we can be on center. We don't have the muscles, and not only do we not have the muscles, we don't know that we need the muscles. We don't even know that that's a possibility. What if true balance was about learning all of these possibilities and strengthening ourselves in the ways that we want so that we are to the point where we can make the micro adjustments necessary to keep ourselves handstanding? Let's switch gears just a little bit. This is all going to come full circle. The other day I was listening to my Spotify playlist and Sara Bareilles came on. She's an automatic inspiration to me. I don't know what it is. Something about Sara Bareilles, I just love her. I turn on her albums. I feel like getting stuff done. I feel like going on a run. I feel like creating beautiful things. I feel like breathing in the world. I'm like, yes, I can do all the things. I remember being on a trip to Hawaii and I was with my cousin and her children and it was like fantastic. And I was taking a moment of solitary reprieve and I was in like the fitness center at the hotel. And I plugged in my headphones because I'm old school. And this was a long time ago, you guys. And I stepped on the treadmill and Sara came on and we jammed. And I was the only one in this fitness facility. Like it was me. And that was probably good. Because when I say we jammed, I mean like we rocked out. There was singing, there was dancing, the works. Sara and I are best friends. I love music like this. I love feeling inspired by music. My body loves moving to music. I love creating music. I'm so grateful to Sara Bareilles for making beautiful music. I'm sure that she feels like sometimes there are other bigger, better musicians in the world. That maybe there's a different way to do it that would be better, or that maybe there's something that she's missing. Maybe her songs aren't that helpful or unique or whatever. But let me tell you, it is to me. It's helpful to me. Like there's a Sarah Bareilles flavor, her vibe, her voice, her spunk, her lyrics, her essence. I just like it. And there's nobody else that could do that in that way to my soul. And I wouldn't consider myself a modern dancer necessarily. But when I listen to Sarah Bareilles, I consider it and I attempt it. The contribution of Sarah Bareilles, while completely unique, it isn't unique. And here's why. This is all of us. Like all of us have this same unique vibe, this flavor to project into the world. And this is me. Like this is you. This is every homemaker out there in the world. And when we all aren't creating because we're afraid of falling over, afraid of being off balance, afraid of doing it wrong, we are not doing the world any favors. Our specific vibe is ours. Our mode of creation is completely profound. We all fall into thinking that all we can do is recreate, that all we can be is the Beatles again in some form, right? If we're talking singers. And if you're my brain, you'd like to say, and I'm exactly like them, except for more boring and more weird and more lame. So why would I even try? Why would my contribution be important when there's so many contributors and there's so many people who do it more proficiently? The truth is that with our own inside jokes and our own stories and our own flavors, our own traditions, our own pet peeves, our own vibrations, our own attitudes, everything we make becomes unique because it's ours. And really, it's a freaking awesome contribution. This uniqueness, that's what makes a house. That's what makes your home feel like you. And this is what your children are wanting. This is the connection that is missing in the world. Your willingness to play big is home. Of course, there are other makers of home who have done a great job throughout history. We can name them. The world is full of them. There's some people who are really good at creating a beautiful home, some an organized home. Some are good at creating a comfortable home. Some are good at creating, great conversation. Thank goodness. This is fun and really awesome, because when we see what others can do when they are fully expressing themselves, we are inspired to fully express ourselves. Now, we cannot be confused that our self-expression is going to look like a perfect handstand, that it's going to feel like balance as we learn it, because it's not. It's going to feel awful. It's going to feel like choosing a wrong paint color. It's going to feel like putting out a bunch of candles, buying a bunch of candles that you realize have like parabens and phytates and all these things that are like smells and cancer-causing agents. Like we all have to start somewhere. But until you think like, oh, I'd like to create a smell in my home that I really enjoy, and you try all the things, you're not going to learn what you like and what you don't, whether it's a fragrance or an ingredient. None of the other people who are great home creators throughout history, or that you might even know personally, are you. None are making the gift for your people in your geographical location, in your life stage, with your values, with your blood, sweat, tears, struggles, insecurities, strengths, sense of humor, dedications, profound commitments, placental ties. Like none of them are you. And the very fact that you are you qualifies you to be extreme in your seeking of balance. Sarah Bareilles is the shiz. So are you. And I love a bunch of different musicians equally to how I love Sarah Bareilles, like Ben Rector. I love Ben Rector. I love them all. And guess what? I listen to them all every day. Each a different attitude, each perfect for a different inspiration. Each gets me through a different part of my run. Each is great for a different moment. Each in my mind brings up a different memory. Each helps me connect to a different part of my soul. Therefore, your unique expression is going to light up people to understand themselves in a way that never before is possible for them. This is like me learning about how to do a tuck-up handstand and recognizing like, I didn't even know I had these muscles. Or the first time you go skiing and the next day you wake up and you're like, holy cow, how are there muscles on the inside of my shin bone? Like, this is You are the catalyst to people becoming better and stronger. This is why we need each other. We need all the musicians. The world needs you, and especially your corner of the world needs you. Remember that balance, that like finding this artistic expression in your house, finding the way you like it, the way that's beautiful to you. It's going to look like a lot of broken lamps. It's going to look like big movement at first. It's going to feel very uncomfortable. It's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's because you're finding your balance. You're going to shift really hard to one side at first and take more time than you think is necessary to find your peace and your passion and yourself. And then you're going to swing really hard and you're not going to take any time for a little while and really focus on being a mom, and it's going to be kind of unbalanced. And that's okay. You just keep doing it. You keep swinging until these micro muscles are built and you get into a groove. And then everything changes, and then you have teenagers instead of young kids, and then you're an empty nester and you have to relearn the groove. We just need to get used to balance being a little bit elusive, requiring a lot of movement, requiring strength and flexibility, all working together at the same time, a lot of iteration, a lot of crashing. This is balance. This is you stepping into your true calling and becoming the mom that seems like she can do it all. And it's not because you're doing it all. It's because you're willing to mess up royally and figure out what works for you. I'm talking about your kids. I'm talking about your marriage. I'm talking about your friendships. I'm talking about the world at large. We all need you to be a little bit more brazen. We all need you to be a little bit more unapologetic. To take the risks, to do the things, and to know that you're not giving up balance for that, but that you are creating balance. You are taking the very steps necessary toward achieving balance by doing all of this flopping, because that's what it's going to look like at first, by taking risks, by completely owning your feelings and your creative potential and your blossoming, to pave the way for your children to blossom. This is the way that we do it. It looks messy, it looks ugly, and it looks really comical. It feels awful, but it helps us grow into the strength and ultimately into the balance that we are seeking. Okay, y'all, try this out for a week. Go make a huge mess. We'll talk to you next time.
Hey, thanks for listening today. If you love what you're hearing, share this episode with a friend who you want to chat with about it. Also, leave a review for the show so we can reach more soulful mamas looking to love the magical humanity that surrounds them at home. If you really are digging this scene, come check out The Knowing, the inner circle for confident home creating. Find all the info about it as well as a full transcript of this episode over at carlythornock.com.